Black Creativity 2026 is now open at the Museum of Science and Industry. The exhibit features the nation's longest running exhibition of Black art, plus interactive family experiences, STEAM career showcases, that's science, tech, engineering, art, and mathematics, youth flight school camps, and signature events throughout the season. From art and innovation to education and community celebration, Black Creativity uplifts the voices, stories, and contributions of Black artists across generations. Grab your tickets now at griffinmsi.org. Steppenwolf Theater presents The Dance of Death, Connor McPherson's twisted modern take on Austin Strindberg's masterclass in marital warfare. In its 4-star review, the Chicago Sun-Times called it Steppenwolf acting at its very best, and as deliriously entertaining as it is astonishingly profound. Featuring 3 generations of Steppenwolf ensemble members and directed by ensemble member Yasin Piankov. The Dance of Death is now playing through March 22nd. Tickets at steppenwolf.org. Today on CityCast Chicago, why are so many judges running uncontested? Are self-driving cars coming to the city? And Reverend Jackson's final services begin in Chicago. It's Friday, February 27th. I'm Jacoby Cochran, and this is what Chicago's talking about. Joining me on the podcast this morning, freelance reporter Natalie Christian Frazier. Natalie, how you feeling?
Feeling great. So happy to be here with you, Jacoby, and CityCast.
Always good to have you in the building. We've also got Block Club Chicago's Jamie Nesbitt Golden. Welcome back.
What up, though? Thanks for having me, Scooty Gang.
I can't believe we've been saying Scooter Gang for 5 years now, G.
I know.
We introduced that
crazy.
Concept like maybe April of 2021, maybe? Something like that. And it's still going. I want to welcome every single person who is listening today. This is our first brand new episode of the week. My hope is that you enjoy our celebration of Chicago's Black history. If this is the first episode you listen to this week, please go back, listen as we explore the roots of gospel music, hip hop music in Chicago. We talked about the growth of the Illinois Black Panther chapter. So again, go back and listen to those episodes. Today, like every Friday, we're going to break down some of the biggest stories happening in and around Chicago this week. And we're going to start here. Early voting for the March primary is already available at the city's downtown super sites. Early voting in every ward opens on Monday, March 2nd. We talked a good amount about the race for Senate, Congress, Cook County Board President, hell, even the assessor's office. But recently, we've turned our attention to the judicial races, where, Natalie, you wanted to discuss a decades-long trend that is showing up once again in this year's primary.
Yeah, this is something that's been, I think, super interesting to me. The Reader put out a piece last week, Dan Hinkle and David Jackson, on how Cook County judicial primary elections are drawing like a dwindling field of candidates. And I found that pretty interesting because, like, as the article starts, on paper, it's a pretty good gig, right? You're making $258,000 a year. You have a lot of power. You have a lot of respect in the city. You're also not really getting disciplined much. There are not many repercussions for anything you're doing on the job or maybe even off.
And once you're in, it's hard to get up out of there.
Yeah.
Disciplinary or otherwise.
Yeah, you're in there. So that's been really interesting. I think like something like 16 of the 28 circuit court races are virtually assured the position, right? So that's pretty concerning, I think, especially in a society where we value democracy. We're trying to, hold our elected officials accountable when people are just kind of given the seats.
And we sat down with Charles Preston from Injustice Watch a couple of weeks ago, and he reminds people, this is the elected office you are actually most likely to interact with as a Chicagoan. You probably never finna sit down with the mayor or Cook County Board President Tony Preckwinkle. But maybe you are in family court or in traffic court or whatever the case may be. Why are so many of these uncontested? Are these people just such good judges that people look at them and go, I have no shot, so I'm gonna just let them keep doing their thing?
Absolutely not. I think I hope, I would wish that, but that's not the case. I think there seem to be a bunch of different reasons. I don't know. And maybe some of it is that like the new up and coming attorneys are millennials and we hate working. So shout out to us. But there are a lot of concerns, I think, with candidates, right? Like campaigning is becoming like increasingly tough. You got to have a lot of funding. Increased public scrutiny, which I kind of raised my eye at. I'm like, yo, you're a circuit judge, right? The public should always be tapped into what you're doing. But increased public scrutiny is another reason. And then lastly, candidates do cite like the Democratic Party is like kind of dominating the field and really like pushing out the candidates that they want to be in power, and that's kind of hard to go up against. So I think it's kind of like you got this establishment, you got this machine working, and they're kind of just helping retain the judges that they want.
Yeah. According to the article, there says some candidates who are running uncontested, some of them have multiple DUIs on their record. Some of them have a history of failing to pay taxes. One recently moved to Cook County. Jamie, I want to bring you in here because I feel like these are the races that are right at the bottom or on the back of people's ballots. Yeah. And most people, after they get through those big races, like governor, their congressional district, they start falling off. Like how is this trend playing into whether it's our apathy, the difficulty of voting, just how much is on the ballot, and how much time it takes to really learn up on all of the people running?
It is kind of labor intensive. And, again, like Natalie said, like these are the elections we should be paying most attention to because we will be encountering these people one way or another. But I do believe that just like, with other elections, there is a bit of laziness when it comes to doing the work to do the research on these candidates to see if they're actually viable. And also, again, like the candidates that you do have, depending on how popular they are, they might have a pretty sizable campaign chest. So you're sort of battling that as well. Like, it's so many different factors. And, for me, like, I'm a horrible person because I, too, sometimes forget to do my due diligence when it comes to, like, looking closely at the judicial elections. But there are guides out there that can help us with this, which is what I've been relying on when I go in the voting booth. So
let's not self-shame, Jamie. We all is overwhelmed, overrun, busy as hell. And it is a difficult process. And my congressional district alone, there are 13 plus candidates who are running, just trying to figure out who the hell all of these people are.
It's like the Wu-Tang Clan. There's so many.
Right? It make it right. And if I don't like memorize the rhythm of saying all the Wu-Tang Clan members' names, I forget. Or if you ask me to say it out of order, I'm like, Shep, Inspector that. And so it is very difficult. But to your point, there are folks like Injustice Watch who've not only put together an amazing digital guide to talk through most of these judicial races, but they also have been delivering physical copies around the city for the last couple of weeks. So you may see them inside of your public library while you're out there. Natalie, anything else you wanted to ask or add?
I just want to say shout out to Injustice Watch. It's a very thorough guide. And also just want to kind of reiterate how tough it is to actually be tapped in with all of these justices. While the races are not contested, it's still a lot of extra stuff at the end of the ballot. I, have worked the polls in North Lawndale for years, and it's tough. Folks, are not getting time off from work. Folks don't have transportation. Folks have their kids with them. It's really tough to get to the voting place, to get to the correct voting place, and then actually get through there and have information. So I think we're trying our best, and I think a piece of it needs to be more education, like Injustice Watch is doing, more physical education, more political education around the judges and how they're impacting us. So we trying our best. We can do better, but we definitely trying our best.
If you're looking for a reason to get out of town for a weekend or a week, maybe check out South by Southwest. That's where some of the world's most curious and inspired and eclectic minds gather to shape what's next. It's the ultimate gathering for the global creative community where thought leaders, filmmakers, musicians, and other professionals share the same space and build together. Innovation, film and TV, music, and culture collide when the 2026 South by Southwest conferences and festivals land in Austin, Texas, March 12th through the 18th. For one electric week, the city becomes a playground for boundary-pushing ideas, world premieres, and live performances that turn into beneficial experiences. Gain real access to new ideas, people, and opportunities that don't just happen anywhere else. They happen at South by Southwest, driven by Rivian. It's an experience built on connection and the thrill of seeing the future first. Plus, you can unlock a 10% discount on your innovation badge when you use code CityCast10 at sxsw.com/Chicago. Discount on badge price only, not combinable. Terms apply. So start planning your adventure today. Access Contemporary Music's Sound of Silent Film Festival is now in its 21st year. And I already know what you're thinking. Kobe, this an audio medium, and that sound a bit like an oxymoron. Doesn't a silent film festival just sound like this? But here's the thing, this festival features newly composed musical scores performed live, so it's movies and a concert. These silent films were selected from more than 100 submissions to an international call, and they span comedy, drama, experimental, and beyond. Plus, they short. Each one is only about 2 to 15 minutes long. And to top it all off, the festival is at none other than the Music Box Theater, one of my favorite spots in the city and a beautiful setting for this kind of event. The Sound of Silent Film Festival is happening Wednesday, April 8th at 7:30 p.m. Tickets are available at acmusic.org. Jamie, over to you. Let's be honest. Are we really Chicagoans if we aren't talking about traffic, parking, public transportation, and everything in between when it comes to being out on the road, whether you're driving, a pedestrian, a cyclist? And this week, I learned about a company who wants to move onto Chicago streets. For those who are or were unfamiliar like me, remind us, what the hell is Waymo cars and why are people talking about them all of a sudden?
Waymo cars are these autonomous cars, meaning that there are no drivers, driverless cars. And the company is a subsidiary of Alphabet Inc., which is Google's parent company. So they've been sort of piloting or test piloting these cars for the last few years out on the West Coast.
Our newsletter editor, Emmy Mack, shared a video with us of her in San Francisco in one of these Waymo vehicles, and the wheel is just in there, herky-jerky doing this thing. I ain't gonna lie. Look like the opening scene of a horror movie.
Yeah, no, listen, it gives like dystopian vibes, right? Like it's very kind of
Invisible
like
Man.
Right. So my colleagues, Mac Liederman and Jeremy Battle, wrote about how Waymo has started testing self-driving cars here, but the cars, now have drivers. Well, for now, rather. So, they're going to be Waymo cars out in the streets, sort of mapping and doing early data collection, I guess, for the next few days, weeks, or whatever. I'm not sure how to feel about this. I think, given who is in charge, Google, I don't know. Chicago has enough problems. Why add, like driverless cars to the mix? Seems a little insane.
Yeah. Pictures are going around of dozens of Waymo cars in a parking garage downtown.
Yes.
Folks from the company said that they're testing out a limited fleet. They're using drivers to start mapping the roads. But of course, we know which roads they're going to be mapping, as they are only working east of I-90 from South Loop to Wrigleyville. Natalie, what are your thoughts here? We've been talking a lot about how Chicago is the site where they're rushing in a quantum campus. We're having a ton of discussions around data centers, hyperscale data centers, and how they're being used for AI, for autonomous vehicles and things like this, because we started with the robot delivery and now we here with the robot rideshare. How you feeling about it?
I don't know. If the robots can't come to the hood, I'm a little skeptical, right? Like I haven't seen...
The Clanker's gonna be racist too.
I haven't seen any robots in North Lawndale delivering food. I mean, with the Waymo fleet, how is data collection not including anything south of, South Loop. So a little bit sketch. I don't know. When I think about the future, like when I was younger, like I didn't envision like self-driving cars that are like hitting, bodega cats and like, almost hitting kids around school buses, or like glitching because somebody covered the sensor with the sticker. It feels like it's maybe premature. And it also, like Jamie said, I feel like we got a lot of stuff going on already. Like it feels like another thing to add to the pot. I'm also kind of interested in Cam Buckner being one of the advocates for this. I think, he's really
100%,
a super transit advocate, like as a cyclist in the city. I feel like, so it's interesting that, he's on this bill. I get wanting to be a part of innovation and wanting to be on the cutting edge, but this may be, we might not be at this edge yet. And I think it also is threatening workers, of course. I think it's already just such a precarious situation for transit drivers.
I think regulation is going to be like top of mind for a lot of folks who are interested in this. And also the fact that like these vehicles have been in over 1,400 reported incidents. With the majority of the serious crashes sort of attributed to human error. So like, yes, like the shiny new thing could be really, really cool, but I mean, who are going to be the adults in charge here? How will be able to make sure that customers and everyone around them are safe? And I think that's going to be like the big question.
I think this happening at a moment which City Council is constantly at the table trying to figure out how can they increase regulations around rideshare drivers. They're constantly going to the rideshare wheel to increase taxes during budget season, but you also have rideshare drivers trying to unionize efforts, trying to force accountability out of these companies, out of these legislators. And to your point, Natalie, Cam Buckner sort of leading the legislation to open up a trial period for these autonomous vehicles to test themselves on Chicago streets. It shows that some attempt I will call it a difficult position lawmakers find themselves, both trying to court these massive companies to Chicago and Cook County, these hyperscale data centers, these technology firms, these quantum campuses, but the speed at which they're courting them, looking for this new investment during what we can all admit is some dire budget times at the city and state level. But what that means and the pace that they're moving for neighborhoods like the Southeast Side, for cyclists who are still looking for more infrastructure investment. Like you said, what does that mean at the time when we're testing vehicles in communities that some are better suited for than others? What does it mean for rideshare drivers, for jobs in the city? And so the balance lawmakers are trying to strike right now by trying to constantly seem pro-business, pro-innovation, but also pro-community. It shows that, like, more times than not, they're not aligned. And so I'm interested to see how he advocates for this moving forward, especially as a lot of the response I saw this week was some rejection from Chicago's from these big questions, but also people like, who the hell am I supposed to cuss out if I look over and it ain't nobody sitting there? Like, what I'm supposed to do with all this frustration? And so this is a story we definitely going to be following. But as of right now, I want to be clear. I'm pretty anti-clanker. Natalie, a series of services in honor of the late Reverend Jesse Jackson kicked off this week. Jackson will remain in repose at Rainbow Push headquarters today before his body is transported to South Carolina for a ceremony on Monday and then Washington, D.C. before returning to Chicago for his homegoing service and burial next Friday and Saturday. Even in death, this man be traveling. He be all over the place. Jesus. Natalie, more people are looking into Jackson's legacy, really celebrating, breaking down his legacy. And you want to talk about an article that was published this week by the Windy City Times that looked at Jackson's legacy as it related to those who live and those who die with HIV, as well as his relationship to the LGBTQ community.
Yeah, rest in peace to Jesse Jackson. I feel like you said traveling everywhere. I mean, he's been all around town. As a bartender in the city, I've served like his security guards quite a bit, so he is all around town. But no, I did want to bring up this piece of his legacy because I do think it is kind of underrepresented when we discuss him. He does have, an HIV, LGBTQ plus legacy in his policies. One interesting fact about him is that his 1984 Democratic National Convention speech was the first time a presidential candidate called for gay and lesbian rights from the convention stage. So that to me is huge. I just recently learned that. Also, both his 1984 and 1988 presidential runs had AIDS policy from jump.
At a time when the Reagan administration was still full-scale ignoring, violently demonizing, and just completely turning away from hundreds of thousands of deaths.
I mean, and these were big moves, right? These were not things that anyone else was doing. Even Black folks around him thought that this could be harmful to his campaign. And he still stood on these things and still included them in his platform, was still focused on LGBTQ outreach. So I think it really speaks to his character, and in a time where we have a lot of rollbacks, especially, around trans rights. I mean, I think there's some stuff going on at the state legislative level right now about HIV funding being pulled back, to be able to transport ourselves back to the 80s and look at, Jesse Jackson and how he was just kind of ahead of his time and attuned to his community. I think it's really awesome. And I think we have to definitely talk about that more, for sure.
100%. What do you think it is about Chicago that you had folks during this time like Jackson, like Washington, right, the Windy City Times, that was such a groundbreaking place for people who were willing to stand up and speak for Chicago's queer community, but the queer community at large?
I mean, I think Chicago, we're for the people, right? Which is why we don't like Waymos. I think from our governor, our mayor, down, I think we're all about people and community. And even when we have, differences across cultures, across, gender, across sexuality, whatever, it's always just about the group. And I think we have that ethos, and I think that's what separates us from other cities. And so I think when you are a politician here, you kind of have to adjust, right? I think about, just kind of Barack Obama and his kind of campaign, how it grew out of, his South Side organizing work. I think that we build leaders who can listen to the people and who can adapt to the people and their needs. So I think Jesse Jackson is just a product of that, but also just a great individual and a person who, was just really attuned to, what the community was feeling and needed. And those are the kind of politicians we need. I think people who are not bought, who are not, kind of bowing down to corporations, but who are listening to us.
To learn more about the services for the late Reverend Jesse Jackson, I will drop a link in the show notes for the services that are taking place today and again at the end of next week. Jamie, we have talked about Kennedy King College in Englewood a few times to discuss the reopening of their student-run restaurant, the reopening of their student pantry, and you recently visited to talk about the legacy of their powerhouse radio station.
This was sort of a love letter to WKKC back in the 90s in my youth. I used to hang out there with my bestie whose mom used to work in the business department. And we used to hang out near the station to see, the students do their shows. And my bestie wound up getting her FCC license while we were still in high school. And this kind of guided us into our, journalism careers. So I wanted to go back and sort of pay homage to the school that has been responsible for launching so many careers in Chicago radio that we don't really know about. And I think, talking with the staff there, they're still really passionate about teaching the next generation of students, the radio fundamentals. And I talked to a couple of really passionate students who, see themselves, using their platforms to better the community. And I think it speaks volumes that, WKKC has been doing this for 50 years and they still, remain as committed as ever to community upliftment. So yeah, it was a blast. Marcella Jones is a program manager there. She's been there since the late 90s. She got her start literally stalking the program manager.
I love the way you broke that story down.
Like she's trying to get her, her choir's song played, and she, like the persistence was wild. So she eventually gets the track played, and then, she gets sort of roped into volunteering there. And then before long, she's a part of the staff, and it's an incredible story, right? Like, the hustle was undeniable. And then you have, folks like Daryl Denard, who is a radio legend himself. He used to teach up there and run the station. Abe Thompson, who's now the director of operations, who is just full of stories about the industry, and just a warm, sunny character. It was a really good time to like sort of dive in and talk about like their impact on Chicago radio.
When you were talking to instructors there, how do they feel about the state of radio? Right now, we doing a podcast, and so many students, that's what they see as media, whether they want to be YouTubers, whether they want to go on TikTok.
Right.
How important is it to the instructors there to preserve the legacy of radio, and what are the challenges they're facing right now with this new generation?
Well, so some of the new kids aren't, some of the new kids aren't as passionate as their predecessors. They will acknowledge that. And, there is this idea that, you really don't need to know how to, say, interview people or, know your way around a soundboard. According to Marcel and them, like maybe kids want to sort of jump over a few basic steps and go straight to the stardom. I think, they're sort of competing with influencer culture and this, instant gratification thing where folks just want to be famous right away. That said, the explosion of podcasts over the last 25 years, I mean, like this is where the industry is going, right? But even with your podcast, you have to know how to ask questions. Yep. You have to know how to, be curious, and you have to know how to work the equipment. So, they, again, are hoping that those who are really, truly interested in learning will, come and learn and spread it. And, so far they've been, again, really lucky in some of the students who've come through their doors, like recently. Kyle Calloway was one of the kids I interviewed, and he, says he was able to find his voice in the 2 years that he's been a student there. And, he uses his weekly talk show to talk about important things in the community. And, he's building an audience. And he hopes to, take what he's learned and share it. And I think, again, sometimes you're not going to reach all of them, but if you reach one or two, right? And I think that's like the philosophy there.
Every single episode of CityCast Chicago ends the exact same way, and that is with some good news. Natalie, what's your good news for us today?
Good news for today is that Peace Runners is celebrating a new wellness headquarters in Garfield Park. So very excited and proud of them. Peace Runners is a West Side-based running nonprofit. It was started by Jackie Hoffman, very cool dude. And so, they are opening up a wellness space. It was previously a liquor store. They do programming, I believe, Tuesdays, Thursdays, Saturdays. So if you're on the West Side, you want to run, you want to work out, or you want to just learn about wellness, definitely got to check them out. The new space is at 3563 West 5th Avenue.
I did an event recently with Chicago Event Management, who runs like the Bank of America Marathon and the Shamrock Shuffle, which is coming up. And they were doing an event dedicated to running clubs on the South and West Sides, running clubs from out in the burbs as well. And to meet with some of these groups and the passion they have, not just for like getting out there and running, which I am not, right? I may do a little light jog on a treadmill sometimes, maybe pick up a nice little brisk walk, but the passion these run clubs have, particularly post-pandemic, to like use these as a platform for not only wellness, but like bringing the community together. So many of them have done grocery programs. So many of them have brought the community out for a ton of different events. Some have used their platforms to rally around and protect the immigrants in their community and to protest ICE. Some have used it for to advocate for Palestinian liberation. So just to see the way these running clubs have become community hubs and community networks, it's really cool to see that one like Peace Runner 773, which I learned about back in 2022, shout out to the tribe, that they have a home base. Because for so many of them, they're meeting up at different pubs or libraries or small businesses and sort of using them as their starting and ending point. It's really cool that they're going to be able to grow their offerings to more programs for young people and for seniors. That's really dope to hear. I know that you are somebody who likes to get out there and run a little bit. So how inspiring is this story for you? But then also, I know you've been trying your hand at some other things as well.
Yeah. I've been doing stand-up comedy the last year, almost a year, this summer.
Nice.
And so just wanted to kind of plug my comedy page, Nitty Frazier Comedy. I don't have any shows coming up, but I just had 2 recently. But I do post my shows on there.
I appreciate you. And I have been following it on the gram. I'm very proud of you. Shout out to Peace Runner 773. Shout out to Natalie Christian Frazier. Jamie, over to you. What is your good news for us today?
So my colleague Atavia Reed has been covering the story about the Englewood Girl Scouts Troop 26286, who were in danger of losing their chapter. When they went viral, they have sold 25,000 cookies.
Jesus Christ.
No, it's
how many did they need, right? How many did they need?
I think they needed
2,100 boxes?
They needed 2,100 boxes by March 11th to remain active to afford activities. And then, after the story ran, they went up to 17,000. Mm-hmm. Now there are 25,000 boxes of cookies sold. It has been amazing. People like J.B. Pritzker have contacted the troop leader, Lauren Hightower, to offer his support. Neighbors have visited, veteran housing to buy boxes by the dozens for family and friends. It's been really, really cool to see. That's 10 times their initial goal. So, so yeah.
I gotta ask, what's y'all go-to cookie? When the little hustlers pull up on you, what you getting?
Dosey dos.
Give me a Samoa.
Samoas.
I can't eat them like that, but I will support. I buy them for others, but I can't but I do buy them for others though. I support other people's cookie habits.
Yeah, my niece is gonna say they got 25,000 boxes, Uncle Kobe. Don't get him no more boxes. Buy our boxes. Right. Zion Zuri, I got you. I even chose for them to have to deliver them to me.
Yeah.
I was like, I told my nieces, y'all ain't shipping them. Bring them to the crib.
Right.
Bring them to the crib.
Make them work for it. I know that's right.
They said, sweet story, Uncle Kobe, but send your friends to us. They got enough.
But no, the good news is that with this, Hightower will be able to provide more workshops to sort of help the girls who want to, pursue careers in STEM and things like that. Hopefully go on a Firehouse tour. So it's a really happy ending to what has been a really hard Black History Month.
Shit, say it with your chest. I am going to wrap up our good news with something I'm excited to watch this weekend, and that is the Unrivaled Playoffs. If you're not familiar, that is the 3-on-3 women's basketball league. They still got one more day of the regular season. I want to say that is today, and then this weekend the playoffs start. One of the best things I've seen this year was the one-on-one tournament they put a couple of weeks ago. That final between Chelsea Gray and Alicia Gray was so hard fought. They was so exhausted by the end of it, but it was that entire tournament was so damn fun to watch. It's got me even more excited for the hopeful return of the W mid-season. Who knows how long these negotiations are going to go. But during NBA All-Star Weekend, this was that was the most fun I had. And so I'm really excited for the end of the season. Angel Reese came back just in time for us Chicago Sky fans to to feel a little more connected to the league. But overall, it's just been an amazing basketball experience. And so I'm excited to see it wrap up for their second year and for things to only get bigger and better. And hopefully they bring their ass to Chicago next time around. I know Philly and Brooklyn had a good time. We're trying to get in on that.
Yeah.
As always, I want to give a huge thank you to our guests. I appreciate y'all making time for the podcast. Natalie Christian Frazier, good to see you again, my friend.
Of course. Thanks, Jacoby. Thanks, CityCast listeners. Happy to be here with y'all.
And Jamie Nesbitt Golden, always a good time.
Same. Thank you, brother.
Before we get out of here, I just want to give a huge thank you to every single person who has contributed to make CityCast Chicago what it is. Our executive producer is Simone Alisea. Our producer is Michelle Navarro. Our newsletter editor is Emmy Mack. Our social media manager is Rick Homuth. Post-production by Jesse Weiser. Our roving producers this week include Lizzie Goldsmith, Adrian Gonzalez, Matthew Rogers, and Katie McMurray. Yes, putting together them reruns take a whole team. Our roving newsletter editors this week, McKenna Harford and Natalia Aldana. The music we all love is from Sam Thousand, All the Kimonos, and Mark Greenberg from the Mayfair Workshop. I'm going to ask you just a couple of favors before we get out of here. One, can you please share this podcast and newsletter with your friends and family? I know there are some new people here today or new people here this week who are just getting acclimated to the podcast and newsletter. I hope you enjoy it. I hope you're rocking with us. Please spread us to your people. If you didn't enjoy us, maybe either keep it to yourself or do the knowledge. Go further into the crates. Keep digging around because I promise you, we got something for you and we doing our damn thing over here. Seriously, we love the work we do. We hope you love it. So please share this with your friends and family. Make sure you're reading our daily newsletter. Please feel free to reach out to us. Give us your thoughts, your ideas, your episode concepts, right? 773-780-0246. We want to hear from you. And then most importantly, have your ass back here bright and early next week. We got our guide to March to kick off Monday. And then, we're going to get back into it, y'all. We'll talk to you then. Peace.